Welcome to Directionally Correct, a People's podcast with Cole and Scott. Today's guest, nobody.
There you go.
There we go.
Hey, Directionally Correct fans. If you're looking to stay connected to the podcast, make sure to subscribe to our Substack newsletter, watch our videos on YouTube, or listen to the podcast on your app of choice. This podcast is dedicated to you to help educate and entertain you on how to effectively do people analytics. We are a listener-supported podcast, so please consider becoming a patron. If you'd like to support the podcast by becoming a patron, you can find a link to sign up in the show notes or at patron.podbean.com/directionallycorrect. Thanks for being a listener. All opinions are our own and do not reflect those of any other organization.
You know who I thought I saw on my morning commute today?
Who'd you see?
I think it was Jeff B himself, Bezos.
You saw Jeff Bezos?
I don't know if Jeff Bezos, I don't want to give too much away, but if he drives a black Mercedes sort of truck and he was checking out my sweet shoes while I was walking to work like a peon, then surely Jeff B has a driver, right? And he's not alone. Like, he's one of the richest men in the world.
I don't know. He's a high T guy now, with all buff. Maybe he's driving a truck by himself.
Literally, it's at the corner of Denny Avenue and whatever that triangle building is by the old Elephant Car Wash, if anyone's familiar with Seattle. But right there, like, I'm wearing these like crazy like yellow shoes I bought off of eBay, yellow Asics. And I look over and this guy's like checking out my shoes, and I look over and we like made eye contact, and I swear to God, it was Bezos or Bezos lookalike. I guess people could like take his image and just try to emulate it.
I had a similar situation like that not that long ago. Do you know who the golfer Bryson DeChambeau is?
I know the name.
Okay. He's popular in golf, but he's actually like a YouTube star now. And so he goes around and he films these videos. There's like a bunch of like gimmicky ones, like how many shots does it take me to get a hole in one over my house and stuff like that. So it's like really popular. And I was golfing the other day and I was coming off the green on the 9th hole, which is by the clubhouse, and driving under a tunnel to go to the back 9. And the guy drove behind me in the other direction. And I was like, was that Bryson DeChambeau?
Was that him?
Yeah. And then a bunch of golf carts followed him and they all had like video equipment on him. And I was like, that's freaking Bryson DeChambeau. And he was filming a video at the golf course I was playing at the time. And so I was like, oh, wow, I just got to like have, and like I made eye contact with him and I waved because I thought I knew him.
Yeah.
But because like I hadn't registered, oh, this is a famous person. This is a person I know. So I waved to Bryson DeChambeau and he waved back.
Plus you're just from the South, right? That's what you do.
Yeah.
You like drive by people and you wave, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's just decorum.
I got to say that I was so locked into the how many days does it take to hit the ball over the house into the hole in one on the ostentatious putting green he has behind his house.
Oh, so you have seen the videos?
I've seen the videos. I just don't know his name. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And he did it for I don't know if he ever made it. I assume he did.
No, he made it. It was like I think 28 days in or something like that.
I probably followed for 25. Yeah. Until I didn't see the videos anymore.
No, that's cool, man. You met Big Boss Bezos.
Who's potentially. Who's the guy that went to UT, University of Texas, the golfer guy?
Spieth.
Jordan
Spieth.
Jordan Spieth. If you're familiar at the State Fair of Texas, there's I don't even know how to describe it. It's by the main sort of thoroughfare. Like, so you got Big Tex on one end and like a big like stage on the other side. And it's like a big room. And he stood right in the doorway of one of them, like taking a photo with somebody. And it's a very high traffic area. And unfortunately, he was trying to take a photo. And I was squeezing around him and some girl at the same time. So someone has a photo of me, like, get the fuck out of the way, Jordan. Get the fuck out of the way. Like, ruin somebody's like great, profile pic.
Yeah, famous person. The world doesn't revolve around you. It revolves around Scott because he needs to get through the door.
I run into famous people very infrequently. Of course, I don't frequent famous people's sort of establishments. When I lived in downtown Dallas, I would see like NBA players. They love this restaurant. It's like a cheap like chicken restaurant on Main Street, and you'd see them there every so often. It's like, oh, these just like 7'5" dudes rolling in.
Yeah, I've seen ESPN guys, not the players, but like the people who work on ESPN quite a few times around Dallas because I guess they all just fly through here for whatever reason.
Makes
So
sense. Yeah.
yeah, I've seen tons of ESPN folks over the years.
Well, over in is it Irving? Wherever they have the Toyota Music Factory
Yeah,
over
Irving,
there.
Las
Las
Vegas.
Colinas, Las Colinas. They have like the Big 12 offices and they do all the college football headquarters are over there. So,
Oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's cool.
and not to mention that, yeah, Dallas is just like a natural hub for the world.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Well,
But I saw Bezos, but I understand you have some Bezos related material coming out, or that
oh,
Bezos can help you out with.
I love the linkage there. Well, I just found this out earlier this week that my book on people analytics, which I'll read the title in a second, is on Amazon now.
You
So it's
know,
for sale, comes out July 29th. For those of you who listening, like 3 years from now, 2025. And it's called People Analytics Using Data Driven HR and Gen AI as a Business Asset. So pretty pumped about that. I'll put a link in the show notes, but it is ready, and I'll probably do a deeper dive later on this year when it's closer to that time coming out. But pretty psyched about this. So yeah, thanks for teaming me up there, Scott.
as you should be, as you should be. Like I know how much effort goes into writing one chapter of a book, and it is
You've done that a few times, haven't you?
it is fucking painful. Well, no. I at the very beginning they say like, "Hey, you want to write a chapter?" You're like, "Hell yes, I'm gonna write a chapter. I got a million things to say." And then like you're like, "All right, I make an outline." And then like 6 months later, you're like, "Oh shit, they're asking me for that chapter I'd promised to forever ago." Like one, I love the artwork there. Did you do that artwork?
I did not do the artwork. And I didn't do the title either. So a while
Did you write
back
the book? Did you write the book?
I did write the book. I was incredibly whiny a while back because I was talking about like if I write a book, are they gonna, make all these key decisions for me about like the content in the
Yeah.
book? And honestly, they've been great to work with. And I wanted to give Toby Colshaw, previous guest, a thank you because he kind of talked me off the ledge to say that I should do it. But the only things that they have done that they haven't really been flexing on is the artwork and the title. And I was like, all right, fine, I can live with this because it's not a bad title and the artwork is cool. So yeah, that was kind of the to go full circle on Cole's being whiny to Cole actually wrote a book.
No, it looks solid. I'm going to talk to T Dog Colshaw next week. As a matter of fact, I mean, good news is it's already in the bargain bin, 71% off. What's going on there? Like, what is, we haven't even come out yet. We're already going to discount.
I don't know. Maybe there's having maybe sales are sluggish. I don't know.
I mean, of all the people I know in people analytics, and which is very few compared to like the mighty network of Cole Napper, like you have such great insights around like how to develop teams, how to show value. I don't even know what's in the book. I can't wait to read it, but I couldn't imagine like the brain of Cole spilling out into the pages.
Yeah, if you're a good boy for Christmas, maybe I'll send you a signed copy. Yeah. Um,
I
but it,
don't want to call them out, but like I won't mention their name, but they mentioned that they have is someone we've had on the podcast before that has a book, so it's rather limiting to how what that is. But they said like, oh Lord, I got like 4 boxes of my book in my garage. I don't know what to do with, so I just kind of hand them out for like Christmas gifts and stuff.
I mean, it's definitely something you have to think about because, like, if they gave you like 4 copies, it's like, yeah, I can find 4 people who want this
Yeah.
book. But if they give you 100, it's like, who am I going to give this to?
A sad day for me. I wrote a book chapter many years ago about virtual teams, and it's really about the chapter's about assessment,
Mhm.
psychometrics of virtual teams. And they give you like 12 copies. So I gave one to my mom, and I don't know, about 10 years later, like she comes like, "Hey, do you want this back?" I
Ooh.
was like, because like in her defense, like she's never gonna read a book chapter about virtual teams. And
Well, that is, I will say this. I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but one of the ways, 'cause my parents have never known like what IO psychology is or what people analytics
Yeah.
is. And one of the things that my dad actually picked up in retirement, because he retired not that long ago, is he started listening to the
Oh,
podcast.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, so occasionally he'll want to talk to me about it. I was like, that's really cool. You know, get to know your family better. And yeah, so dad, if you're listening, I really appreciate you.
Hey, Dad. Yeah.
Yeah,
You should call more. Call your dad more.
probably should. Yeah.
Yeah, but my mom used to say that I do the I and the O. That's what she used to say.
Yeah. Well,
That's what she would tell her friends.
I
Yeah.
think I've told you this before, but that, like family send out Christmas cards every year. One year, my family sent out a card that said, Cole is heavily involved in PSYOP, but it was spelled like psychological operations that like the
PSYOP.
CIA, yeah,
Cole's involved in PSYOPs.
yeah, like really
That is
unethical stuff that,
classic.
yeah, that we do overseas to like, overturn governments. And I was like, Dad, you put that in the Christmas card. He's like, I thought that that's what you did. Sorry. I was like, okay, well,
Well,
I've clearly done a bad job explaining this.
I mean, you mentioned that. I everyone has gone so fucking like crazy about LLMs now, like
Mhm.
Gen AI, that it's really driving me nuts that they think that it's the panacea to everything. It's like, oh, just take it and throw an LLM and get it out. It's like that's just like automating your shit out of existence. I mean, and like not only that, like you're rehashing material that is already existing, and we don't really. Hell, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. We don't really rely on theory that much anymore, or just like basic humanist principles. Like I see a real dearth in our field of people just doing the psyops. Like go back to the psyops and like rely on those psychological principles and get back to our foundations and get away from like the glitter bomb of Gen AI.
Well, I'll agree with you, and then I'll empathize with them for a second. And I have something to talk about this later on in the episode
Oh,
too.
okay.
So it's setting up for a good callback. But to empathize with those people, a lot of folks, especially if you're not like a really digitally native or data literate person, they keep getting told, "Hey, you better start using AI, or it's going to it's
Yeah,
not." They hear the quote like, "It's not AI that's going to replace you; it's the people who don't use AI that's going to
yeah.
get replaced." And so they're thinking, "Okay, well maybe I'll just throw a bunch of spaghetti against the wall with AI and see what sticks." And then they end up finding things that they're like, "Oh, it is actually really good at this thing, but that also happens to be the thing that I'm really good at." So I'm in like torn, like, should I get AI to do the thing that I'm really good at, or do I, you get what I'm saying? But I'll cover it later where it talks about the number one skill that makes you better at AI is critical thinking,
Yeah,
and the
well,
number
yeah,
one skill
okay.
that AI is replacing, and I guess I'm kind of giving it away now, but is critical thinking. And so it's just a fascinating thing that what we're seeing in society.
I love the experimentation. I love the exploration of like, hey, let's find ways to improve my work, get me better, make me more efficient, this sort of stuff. But it's not the answer to everything. It's not the answer
Correct.
to everything. But people are seeing it that way. And yes, there's the. I'm sure people are being leveraged as far as like how are you using Gen AI to improve your work, just like almost like an encouragement or like a performance sort of criteria.
Yeah. I'll
But
just
like
throw this up as a resource, and we won't cover it in the nerdy since we already got into it, but there's an article called The Impact of Generative AI on Critical Thinking, and people are giving self-reported reductions in cognitive effort and confidence effects from the survey of knowledge workers. So basically people who are using AI are even reporting it's reducing their critical thinking. So I thought this was interesting.
yeah, I mean, like leave it up. I mean, like I think that that's really intriguing. Like I noticed that myself. You like oh, I hash out the foundations of a paragraph. You know, like here's what I generally want to say in the paragraph, and I'll pop it into like a LLM and say, hey, make this sound like I'm actually smart. This
Yeah.
sort of thing, and it does. Yay, hooray! But that's lazy behavior. Does it speed me up? Yeah. Does it really come out in the voice that I would write it in if I were doing it, we'll say 10 years ago? No, absolutely not. Is that good? I think that we really need to have the time to dig into things and like let it ruminate in your brain before moving on to like really have it soak in and have like genuine thoughts about them.
Well, the thing I found in one of my big hacks, because I have to generate a ton of content for the
Yeah.
variety of things that I do, is it's sort of like building an outline, but it's more stream of consciousness than that, which is if I just kind of, and you could do it via voice. I just don't prefer to do it via voice personally. I like typing it out. I feel like it makes me think more clearly. But if I can just stream of consciousness, type out what I want to say or write, and then just have AI fill in the gaps,
Yeah.
that ends up being because a lot of people talk about, oh, here are the tips and tricks for prompt engineering. And it's not prompt engineering, it's just the clarification of thoughts. Whereas if I go to AI and say, hey, write me a paragraph about why people analytics is interesting, it's going to give me a very generic, crappy paragraph. I mean, it's good in terms
Yeah.
of it has
Yeah.
grammatically correct, it will have factual information unless it's hallucinating or what have you. But if I go in and I write ostensibly, like sometimes, like the context window, I'll have written like 3 pages and I'll say, "Hey,
Yeah.
write me 3 pages on this topic." And it ends up being so much better because I had essentially written 3 pages, but it was improved because I didn't have to spend 3 days editing down my ideas to make them more concise.
That's the magic of it. That's the appeal. So like you can move on to other things and produce more content and like that's the time saving element. But is it good? Like, and I'm not talking for you or like any
Yeah,
individual person. I'm talking like in general because
the
I do
person
think
who
that that erodes.
increased their critical thinking, is it good?
Exactly. Exactly. It's the same reason that people retire and they do, if they're lucky, they do a crossword puzzle and they atrophy, right? I mean, like, because you're not really using the noggin anymore. And
Well, it's a paradox, really, and I'm sure
it
somebody has
is.
probably
It is.
cleverly written something like "The Paradox of Critical Thinking," but if they haven't, I, trademark that. I said it first, which is, which is again, if the best people who use AI are gonna be critical thinkers and AI decreases critical thinking, that's a problem as a society.
And the genie's out of the bottle. It ain't going away.
Mhm.
Right? Like, this is not like a two-way door that we can, like, go back to, what, 2021? 2020 and like say like this didn't exist. Schmidt is right that like cognitive ability is declining. I've not bought it, but I think it's for different reasons. Maybe he saw the future, or just this prophetic that the cognitive ability is just becoming less of an asset.
Are you talking about Idiocracy or Frank Schmidt, or are you talking about like what is it, the Flynn effect? Which are those you're
Well,
talking?
oh man, like I think that all three are applicable here. I was really making a Frank Schmidt joke there, but definitely, you see Idiocracy creeping in, one of the most profound movies ever made, honestly.
Well, so
Uh,
maybe it's like the paradox of intelligence, which is intelligence, according to his research, even though it is disputed, is like the most important factor for job
mhm.
performance. However, the more intelligent you are, the more likely you are to use previously the internet, but now AI, which is making you less intelligent.
It's like if you look at creativity research, it's like what makes someone creative. Like we think about it like as a magical force that some people have it and some people don't, but it's really like, are you intelligent and do you explore a lot of the environment? And I kind of see the same thing as the job. It's like in the future, having a wide breadth of information and having strong social skills, those are going to be the critical things. But of course, to have these sort of things, you also have some cognitive horsepower.
Yeah, you
I'm
better.
kind of going off in the I'm fully caffeinated. I mean,
There you
we're
go.
90% caffeine intake at this point.
Well, you mind if I pivot to something else I want to talk to you about today?
I'm not sure if I
Um,
want that, but okay.
well, let's do it anyway. Uh, so we've got this PSYOP session coming up, and I was prepping for it the other day. And so we've got, Tara Barron and Shauna Waters going to be great guests for us at PSYOP in Denver in a few weeks. But we were talking the other day, and one of them brought up this concept of like, all the stuff that's happening legislatively in the United States right now. One of the things was like kind of overturning affirmative action, and they were saying how, one of the 4/5 rule, its existence was one of the reasons why IO psychology as a field took off because you needed people who could calculate this and do legally
Yeah.
defensible things for organizations. And if those things are no longer applicable, is IO psychology no longer applicable? And I was like, wow, we're really selling IO psychology short in terms of what we can do.
Hmm.
But I don't know. There's a ton of stuff going on in the world, and I know we have like kind of like a moratorium on being extremely political on the podcast. But
Yeah.
it's kind of hard not to talk about some of this stuff because it affects our work so much. So I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, like, you're springing this on me, of course. I disagree with the premise up front that like the 4/5 rule or adverse impact is why IO psychologists took off. Like you go back to like the Gilbreth or Hawthorne studies. It's all about making people better and faster at their job, and like part of that is like the Army Alpha and Army Beta studies that selecting better people that can actually perform the job. I think those are like foundational sort of IO things, and we didn't care about adverse impact at the time. True, but you go to like sort of the it was a Hunter and Hunter. Like they thought that things like banding actually crushed the validity coefficients. So like why even do that sort of thing? And I understand the point of view as well. I understand the point of view that we need to have a variety of talent there for the good of the company and the good of society as well. But like I just pointing directly to adverse impact, I'm gonna like disagree as far as like that's the core of IO.
See, and this is why I brought it up because I knew that you would bring those were I would probably use different examples, but I love like the Army Alpha example is like,
Yeah.
yeah, we've been around 100 years. A lot of this legislation came into place in the 1960s and 70s. IO was still a relatively small field then. It
Yeah.
has grown a lot since then, so I'm not going to say it didn't help, but it's definitely a multivariate equation as to like why IO psych is relevant. And as you've said, because this is the direction I thought you would go or hoping you would go, you said a million times on the podcast, like the first semester of graduate school when you're
Oh yeah.
learning research
Oh
methods
yeah.
is like one of the most powerful tools in your tool chest. And you can apply that to anything, not just IO psychology. And so IO psychology has a ton to offer. People Analytics has a ton to offer, regardless of what's going on, in our society at the moment. So I don't know. I thought that would be a inspirational message.
Is this something we're gonna be talking about on stage? I gotta like rehash
No,
these
I don't
ideas.
think we
Oh,
are. And that's why I brought it up now.
I saw a TikTok the other day of this. I don't know. She's like ostensibly like a 19-year-old girl, 20-year-old girl at some university, and she's like essentially saying, my advisor said that I was done with math and I'm in this psychological statistics course and what the hell? I don't
Yeah.
even some of these words are just from the devil. I've never heard they're just they're conjuring spells like homoscedasticity. Like this sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is a kind of a unpleasant surprise for a lot of people is they're like, oh, they'll read like a book on pop psychology and like, wow, this is really interesting. Maybe I should major in psychology. And I'm a more of a people person. I'm not a math person. So maybe I'll do this. And then they get into psychology and they realize that all it is math and like experimentation and like a lot of buyer's remorse.
Oh shit, it is a science. It's not just like story time about all the fun findings. Oh no. I mean, like, I really did not enjoy my definitely research methods class as an undergrad. I didn't value it. I didn't understand it. But, like, now I see it, especially if you're in grad school, it's the most valuable class that you have. Most valuable.
Yeah. I was listening. I'm curious what you think about this because this is related to psychology. I'm reading, actually, I haven't started yet, but I listened to this guy, this book called The Ellipsis Manual. So
The
he was on
ellipsis
a
manual?
podcast the other day.
What does that
Uh,
mean? What's the ellipsis manual?
well, I'll get into it. He's talking about like how people use psychology to like manipulate people, like get them to start a cult or get
Psyop.
them to like do stuff that's not in their best interest. And there was a part of me that was like, well, first of all, this is fascinating. Secondly, is he just giving a bunch of mumbo jumbo? That's why I bought the book to look into it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have any like scientific basis. But the third reason is like we've talked a bunch about like the replication crisis and how meager some of
Oh,
our
yeah.
correlation coefficients are. And then I thought about it, I was like, should I really even be worried about any of this stuff? Because does psychology work good enough that you could actually use it to manipulate somebody? Or is it just some people are really highly suggestible and you can get them to do anything regardless of what the psychology says?
That's just for me to react to. It sounds wildly interesting. I don't fully understand the premise of the book, but there's enough examples out there of
It's the subtitle is Analysis and Engineering of Human Behavior. And then he has a second book called Behavioral Ops Manual, Neurocognitive Intelligence Training. And I was
this
like, this is either a bunch of bullshit or it's brilliant or, it's just, whatever.
two sort of like not totally divergent thoughts. I invoke his name way too much, but Alex Pentland, his book Social Physics, has a number of these examples of how to modify people's behavior, not by direct individual means, but by applying social pressure to them. So, like, essentially inducing herding behavior and getting people to like do things. So, like a small example, maybe like you walk up to a corner in, say, like Manhattan. One restaurant is packed with people, the other has no one in it. You're more likely to go to the one that's packed, even though you have no idea which food is better. This sort of thing. I highly recommend it as far as like finding ways to manipulate how people behave. And with that said, I've dealt with a few behavioral scientists, worked with a few at a variety of companies, and they've never lived up to this hype. If you're
That's
out
my
there, I want
point.
you to live up to it. I want it to happen, but that's your job, is to do these sort of manipulations on people and get them to behave in a way we want. And I think it's fucking fascinating.
That's exactly the direction I was hoping you would go,
Yeah.
because like nudging, nudging was like this big thing like 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
We're like going to completely remake society. I think the phrase was like libertarian paternalism. We're going to make it better, but not in a heavy handed way through nudging people. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, and it works and it's so efficacious. And then, 10 years later, a bunch of research comes out that like nudging doesn't work at all, except it just really annoys people. And it's like, oh, it's kind of like a pestering mother. We're just going to pester people into doing what we want. And it's like, okay, well, we knew like pestering has mixed effects, like thousands of years ago, probably.
Well,
So,
yeah. And it does work. It works under conditions, though. I think a lot of people think like, oh, I'm gonna email blast people, and we'll get them to do this sort of thing. I mean, that's gonna work for a percentage of folks, but the real science behind it, like how can you increase that probability, is where the behavioral scientists should come in, or psychologists,
yeah.
whatever, and make this more likely.
I mean, the biggest impact of nudging was, they'll automatically check the box for you to subscribe to something when you're buying. Like it's like subscribe to our newsletter and it's automatically checked, but it's like buried in the fine print. And you're like,
Yeah.
oh, I better uncheck that box or they're gonna annoy me forever. Right. But like that's nudging at its finest.
Dude, 1-800-Flowers, not a sponsor, and I don't want them to sponsor it. I get 3 emails from them every day. Like,
Exactly.
I put it in the blocked bin, it still shows up somehow. I don't know
And then
how.
somebody at 1-800-Flowers, probably a whole team of people, are bragging about how great their nudging efforts are to get you to buy 1-800-Flowers because look, we have spam, we're not in the spam folder and we automatically check the box that, people are signed up forever. You can't get out of it. Death, taxes, and 1-800 and flowers.
Man, at the last company I worked at, like, I was trying to run this campaign to essentially do nudging, but essentially get people to sign up for something, and I talked to our marketing group or, communications group, and I was asking them, "Hey, can we just see if someone opened an email?"
Yeah.
And the underling said, "Oh yeah, absolutely." And the boss lady sitting next to her like interrupted her and said like, "No, we cannot do that." And I was like,
Because they knew
"Oh,
the implications.
oh, something interesting is going on here." That's more of a kvetching, and like
No, no, I totally get where you're going with that.
yeah, yeah. It's like, oh well, you want us to do something, but you don't want to give us the tools to actually measure it to know if it's effective. Anyway, now I'm just kvetching.
No, I mean, and that's the whole premise behind, like IO psychology or people analytics or behavioral sciences. You
Yeah.
actually do something and then you measure how efficacious it is afterwards. But
Well, back
you cut out the measurement part and it's like, what are we doing here?
back to the first like month or two you're in a research program, right? Those what they talk about as far as like designing an experiment, selecting a sample, making a a true experimental design where you have like in a randomized assignment, this sort of thing. People do not get it in the business. They will come up with like fucked up ideas of like this is all fictitious, of course, but like my group, we want to show that people in my group are going to get promoted. So we're going to put all the people that are on the promotion track into my sample and all the fuck ups in the other sample. And it turns out that my program is great. Like, I don't think that that's really showing anything. But of
Well,
course, you got outside
that's
sources.
why, one of the core tenets of science is randomization.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if there's one rule, right? I'm still looking for the Solomon foregroup design. Haven't been able to figure out how to fit that into any sort of research study in an actual organization, but I like the idea anyway.
Yeah, you get to create like a Punnett square. You get to do a t-test and a chi-square. You get to break
Oh
those bad boys
man,
out.
talking sexy to me now, baby.
Yeah, yeah.
Confusion matrix. Sweet, we don't have to go there right now.
Yeah, do you
Uh,
wanna do a confusion matrix? Do you have one?
yeah, yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, this is a good example of like where we should go to confusion matrix.
The confusion matrix.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to give her shit. We did have a guest for today, but fire drills do happen in the workplace, and we'll get her on. But I did craft this not specifically for her, but what are you gonna do?
Close.
Okay, Cole. Like if you answer these questions in a way that I deem appropriate, or like in other terms, then you can create a social media tile for yourself and share it with your friends and family. As always.
Lovely, lovely.
Okay. If you could walk into work every day with an entrance song, what would it be? So like you're walking into the front doors and like baseball player, you walk up to the plate, song starts playing. What are you playing? What's going through your head?
People would hate it, but it'd be like some of like probably like Under Oath or Only Chasing Safety song, which I know 99.5% of our audience is not gonna know what that is, but for the point 0.5, they're gonna know it crushes, and it's yeah, it's very much in the screamo vein, and I would love it.
Oh, okay. Is this like a early 2000s sort of like punk rap sort of thing?
Actually, I'd love to dig into this for a second because I
Good.
wonder so, like, I go for runs in the morning before work. I don't know if you do any extra we actually never talked about this, I don't think. And one of the things like, if you're exercising and a good song comes on, sometimes you'll, like, have more energy, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think, like, that's a pretty universal finding. One of the things I found, though, with, like, certain songs, like, my energy goes to, like, 11, and I feel like my adrenaline starts pumping through me, and, like, I could run through a wall. And so when you brought that up, I was thinking about, like, if I ever, like, need to, like, go for, like, a real, like, full out sprint when I'm on a run, I'll
Yeah.
turn on one of those songs, and, I mean, it's just, like, effortless to sprint when that's happening.
That's not external motivation. It's just like I guess like I don't even know how to describe that. That's just like a stimulus. You go
Yeah.
like straight behaviorism, a stimulus for a response.
But
Not behavior.
it's really like, I know something's being triggered, and it's just like, "All right, I'm on all systems go now."
I mean, perhaps talk about like behavioral science. One of the I had a friend that was a runner, and he described running a marathon, and the way he kept going, you're going like 26 miles, 26.2 miles, and like you get kind of bored and like you lose your focus, this sort of stuff. He described that every person that he passed, he was like mentally gobbling up their energy. Like he like kind of stole their will from them, and that's what like even that fed him. And he's like, "Ah, I got another one," and like just kind of treat it like that. I guess at some point you get kind of spread out from people and becomes
Mhm.
even more motivating. But I was like, that's a really like kind of a fun way to keep it going. Just keep the motor running, right?
I think, yeah, highly competitive people have a lot of, like, mind tricks to get them to, level up. I've been watching I'm, like, really late to the game on this. The series on these Formula 1 racers on Netflix,
Uh huh.
and you get to see, like, they're extremely competitive. And and just, like, you know, ostensibly, if you're driving a race car, you're actually not moving a whole lot, right? But
Oh
you
yeah,
get the race
absolutely.
is done and you're covered in sweat And it's like you've been working out for hours, but really all you've been doing is turning slightly to the left and slightly to the right. And so it's like, there's some other like parasympathetic thing that's going on in your body that is making you expend all this energy.
It's obviously a combination of factors. Like we talked to Charles and Harold about the NFL players, right?
Mhm.
And even to get to that level, you have to be a psychopath. Like you can't be like, I'm sort of competitive. It's like no, you were like you're playing Monopoly with the family and like dominating the children, right? You're playing sorry and just killing them, and like you do the same. Like did you see the Michael Jordan documentary
Yeah, we've
where
talked about
like
it before a few times.
oh my god, where like he's playing like shooting like quarters in the locker room with like the attendant
Yeah,
and
the security
like, it's
guard.
insane, like, the competitive nature of these folks.
It totally agree. It's like it's a whole new like, it actually brings you back to, like, why I like psychology in the first place.
Yeah,
It
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wasn't, again, for all the research methods, where originally most people are interested in psychology is they see some phenomena in human beings that are at the tails of the distribution, and like, "That's fascinating. What can I learn more about how we can research that?" And, again, this is the tails of the distribution that I find fascinating.
And these are the sort of studies that I find most fascinating themselves. It's like things that when you hear them, the findings you hear them make total sense, but you never really thought about it that way before, or you had an inkling of an idea about it. But when you hear it, like, oh yeah, there you go. And like now we've like unlocked a new part of my brain to, encapsulate this. It's the sort of counterintuitive ones that don't really make sense, which are kind of an iffy ground. But the ones that you're like, oh shit, I've always kind of noticed that, but never put it on paper.
Yeah. That is fascinating. I'm curious, I didn't ask you, what is your walkout music?
Oh, I would do Real by the Sleigh Bells. It's a totally different vibe. It's a vibe. I have no idea what the actual lyrics are, but it's just like a groovy one.
So is it like a kinda sublime type feel, or what is it?
Think more like it's kind of slower paced, and we should probably just like dump these into the pod at some point, but think more like MIA Paper Planes.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but they're not it's slower paced than that, but like kind of that sort of
Yeah,
like we're grooving.
absolutely.
So yeah, I think that you and I have just like different approaches to work. If you just want to like do it from that perspective.
Well, I just want people to pick up what I'm putting down if that was my walkout music in the
Oh
office.
man, you're laying some meme language on me. Okay, check this out. Like most superheroes play okay, think about like the Fantastic Four. Each member of the Fantastic Four has their own special ability, but they also play a special role. Like you may have the Brainiac or the person that connects all the dots, or the person that's like the heavy hitter. People play specific roles on teams, not necessarily with their skills, but with like how they operate within the team. What role do you play? What unique role do you think that you play on a team?
Hmm.
I've been asking. I'll let you think about it for a second. I've been
Yeah.
asking this one in some interviews I'm conducting, and it's my favorite question to ask. And people have the same reaction as you just did, like, "Oh shit, this is a wild question."
Yeah,
The
it's not
responses
it's
are
like
fantastic.
I don't wanna be like, "Oh, well, it depends," but it does depend, like, on kind of the nature of the team. Like, I would put it my level of leadership is much higher on a team that I care about the results versus a team who I don't care about the results. My level of leadership is much lower. But I would say most teams I'm going to try to play like a leadership type position.
Yeah,
If it's something I don't care about, I'm probably more of the cheerleader, if that makes sense. What
surely. Okay, you're on the
what would you
sidelines.
say?
Like, what would I say?
Yeah.
I find myself in a role of somewhere between like the glue person, like making sure
Mhm.
things go well and people will feel heard,
Yeah.
and brainstorm, like the big thinker. Like I think that I come up with different because I consume so much information from a variety of sources. I think that I come up with like bigger ideas than other folks, more creative ideas anyway. But that's a little self-serving to say that
No, I
myself.
mean, I feel like you're extremely creative. So I think that A team, if you're on a team and they're not utilizing your creativity, they're dumb.
Y'all are dumb. Do you hear that? So, move on to the nerdery?
Yeah, let's do some nerdery. The nerdery.
I tried to figure out how to do this differently every week, and this week I wrote it on Post-it notes, which is very tiny. But this is seeing the value in novelty. So sometimes you may have an idea and you take it to your leader, your boss man, boss lady, whatever, boss, whatever they are. It's 2025. Who's to say? And they're like, yeah, I don't know about that idea. And you're like, damn, like I took them this like really cool idea and they didn't say anything. So this article hits on the idea of a bias against novelty. So even managers that say that they want to think outside the box still have this bias towards things that are not risky. But like how people actually judge ideas may not be solely related on the quality of the idea, but not only their own social network, namely the diversity of their connections, but also the person that's bringing the idea to them.
Mm-hmm.
So this article, it's a new JAP article, 2025, studied this in 3 different ways. So they ran 3 different studies. The first study, they went to a ceramics factory and they asked the employees to come up with a bunch of different ideas for new products. They had this cool methods sort of section here. They had the marketing team or like a group of SMEs anyway, rate the novelty of these ideas and then went to managers and had them rate the viability of these different products. So it's completely blind. They don't know who's bringing the products. It's already been pre-rated, so they understand novelty. And then at the same time, they ask managers to identify who they talk to in the company to get at the diversity of their network. So it's an active O&A survey. And what they found is that people with low diversity provided lower ratings to the highly novel ideas. But people with higher diversity in their networks provided not only higher ratings to the novel ideas, but also were more willing to advocate for these sort of things. So really just the exposure to more things allow people to see greater potential in these ideas. They replicated this in a laboratory study. Essentially, they got students in there, and I won't go into that because essentially replicate the study. Then they went out to the field again to a battery tech company, pardon me. And they had once again like employees develop ideas for battery technology, and they found that people that were more central in the network produce ideas that were more novel overall, which kind of makes sense. You gather more information, you can like produce ideas that are more novel. And they say that it's really there's an interaction effect. So the magic really happens when you have a manager with high diversity and an employee that's very central. That's where the true innovative magic takes place. A huge mouthful.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And one of the things I was thinking about, I thought originally when you were describing it, I thought it was going this direction, and then I realized it was kind of going a different direction. But I think it jibes with what you're saying. Is there's a lot of research that'll test like teams creating ideas, like an idea quality. And I think we've
Yeah.
covered a few on the
Yeah.
podcast before. It's like and diverse teams and like what kind of team composition does it take to make the highest quality ideas? And one of my criticisms of that, which you hit on with this research, is yeah, but just because they generate like a really novel idea doesn't mean anybody's going to implement that idea,
Yeah.
right? And so what really you want is what kind of teams create the best ideas and are most likely to get those ideas adopted by organizational leadership who actually makes the decisions. And I think what you got into there with the third study is what it takes to get creative or novel ideas adopted, not just created.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just one thing to be like, I got this idea. We're gonna have a cat shit on a drum head, and yeah, okay,
Great idea.
great idea. That's very novel, totally
Yeah,
novel, but like
super
not
novel.
viable from our customer standpoint. I think that the takeaway, and it has really good suggestions at the end of the article to get your idea adopted, as far as like expand your network from just a network standpoint, like take in more ideas, all this sort of stuff, but also frame it in a way that the company or managers can see the value of the idea and how it will actually impact, customer demand or, revenue generation, whatever the idea is trying to attack. But the fascinating thing is like, just because you have an idea doesn't mean that the manager is going to see the value in it because of who they are and who you are. Because essentially, people with higher social status, i.e., more central, are going to be seen as more viable in
Yeah.
this way.
Well, there's a part of it again that's like status and influence. And there's a part of it which is some people have decision making rights and some people don't.
Yeah.
And whoever has decision making rights, that's who you need to influence because they can fundamentally say yes or no to a decision.
The
Do you mind if I hit you with one real quick, though?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I found this, and this is actually kind of a callback to one of the things you were saying earlier about, let me see if I can get it on the screen real quick, about experimental design and how, you've never really gotten to do like a 2x2 randomized controlled trial and like, what's the value? So apparently I must have missed this, but it's HBS has a working paper series at Harvard Business School. And in 2016, they published this article called The Great Training Robbery. And what they found is that, US corporations spend $164 billion a year on training and education. And the overwhelming evidence shows that none of this training transfers to employees. And so this guy, James Elfer, tells a story about at his company, More Than Now, they had done a groundbreaking assessment of a development program for 1,000 leaders. And what they did is they chose a true randomized controlled experiment to evaluate the effectiveness of that training program. And what they found is, again, to use like Kirkpatrick's model, the first level, the program rated extremely well. Everybody loved it.
Yeah.
But the kicker was they found no effect on leader behavior and no positive change in employee experiences in the aftermath of the leaders that had gone through the program. And so I think this is why we were talking earlier about the person who asked if you could get the click through links on,
Yeah.
and then the manager goes, "Oh, no, we don't have that data." I thought immediately of this article because people who lead training and development programs, that they only want to see the ratings. They only want to see, oh, people love the training, right? Everybody loves the training. They said the training was so effective. But what they don't want to see is the actual evaluation and measurement if the training had an impact in the real world. And it's because there's a great training robbery going on right now, and $164 billion a year is being utilized with it.
I love the title, The Great Training Robbery. Just a quick aside, the great Don Hamill. I used to work at ProEd in Austin, and he was my psychometrics leader. He's the one that like was doing psychometrics by hand in like the 1930s, like quite literally like
Yeah.
correlation tables and sort of stuff. And he grew up in a circus family, and they would ride a train, and you talk about they'd all sit in the caboose, and everyone had a gun on the table while they were counting the money because like people would come and try and rob their trains, like fucking Wild West sure as shit. Anyway, boy, I've seen all sorts of crazy things happen with training, like leaders, like the trainers telling everyone in the moment, like, hey, take this evaluation of the program. Be sure to give it 5 stars while you're in here. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, this is not evaluation whatsoever.
Or you're
Um,
at the oil change place and the oil change person is like,
yeah,
"Hey, I just want you to know, can you make sure to give me 5 stars because my bonus is tied to if I get 5
yeah.
stars or not?" And it's like stuff like that is like completely, again, there's no efficacy to it.
But I mean, it does. Training does work, or else we wouldn't have school. We wouldn't have school, right? Like, but you need
I don't know if
this.
your example actually proves that because I think a lot of people go to school for 12 years and still don't know how to read.
Oh my god! Well, yeah, that's another example of like, do you want free education? Like, you had it for 12 years and you didn't seem to take it for that time. But I digress. But it does work for some people, but you need sustained training, and it needs to be spaced out, it needs to be reinforced over time, you need to have motivation to do it, all these sort of things that you ain't gonna get in a hour long video to watch. and you're not going to get it in a 2-day seminar that everyone just goes off and doesn't do anything about. This is where like behavioral scientists or even social scientists can come in and be like really effective in the training space to say like, okay, we need to organize this in a more structured way to reinforce the material that we find super important. We're not
Yeah.
going to give you 45 things to remember. We're going to give you 5 things to remember, and we're going to hammer them home. And it's got to be ingrained in the culture if they're important, and it's got to be a full force effort. It can't just be like you did it and you liked it and that was great. Now let's find like a cascading effect
Yeah.
to everyone around you.
When I've led teams in the past that did this type of work of like evaluating training and using Kirkpatrick's model, I always told people level 3 is all I care about,
Yeah.
because level 4 is the ROI. Well, you can't get ROI if level 3 doesn't work. And I've probably mentioned this on the pod before, there's actually an inverse correlation between level 3 and level 1. So the less people like training, the more likely they are to have learned something from it. And the more they like the training, the less likely they are to have learned something and transferred it to the job.
What's the neighbor guess? He's like, what's your job? Is like, I got to teach kids math. Like, do they want to learn math? Like, no. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's neighbor gets it or not, but yeah, it's a tough job. That's an interesting perspective. I've never heard the I never thought about it, and I'd have to think about it some more. Like the more people like the training, the less effective it is. I guess it
Well, I've
transferring.
never seen anybody publish research along those lines, and so that could just be from my own experience having done the analysis myself and my team's done the analysis, but it's still like it tracks logically with what I've seen in the world, and it tracks with that article a second ago, which is they found the ratings were super high, and they found using a controlled randomized controlled trial that there was no effect on leader behavior, and there was no effect on the direct reports having better employee experiences, which means there was an inverse correlation between the ratings of the training and its level 3 effectiveness and in terms of transferring to the job.
This is where you need a combination of factors, but I think social networks really come in handy. Like if you really want to produce a behavioral change in folks, you can't give one person training and expect them to go back to their group of friends and try to influence all of them to, change their behaviors.
Mhm.
What you need is to get that group of friends together, everyone go through that training and provide some measures to reinforce that over time. Just like think about it's a small example, but emo kids. Like, why do all y'all like dress alike? Why do y'all sound exactly alike? Because you're such tight knit. You've reinforced the behaviors to one another. It may not be what you want to get out of a training, but you could you can create pockets of culture where behaviors do change. Same with brainiacs. They start, reinforcing each other to study more. They start competing against each other or just like set the norms of how you should behave. So it can be done, but you're not going to do it in an hour.
No, you're not. But I think one of the things that we're hitting on here, and I'll touch on this just briefly, is we have to know what the validity is of what we're measuring. And so I found an article by a guy named Kai Larson at Professor University of Colorado
Yeah,
who
yeah, yeah.
just published something at MIS Quarterly on the validity in design science. And what they did is they realized like all of science is based on trying to establish like whether or not what we do is valid. And they looked into it and they found something like there's 7,000 different definitions of what validity is.
Mhm.
And so they created the first, as far as they know, the decision science validity framework for basically like defining how you know if something is valid or not. So like all of what we do in science or at least in like IO psychology is based on whether or not it's reliable and valid. And we don't even know what validity is. And so that
Uh,
problem.
well, I mean, just from like the broad perspective of like, you start with face validity, then
Mhm.
like go concurrent validity, predictive validity, or like we're entering this realm as far as like LLMs is like, what does accuracy really mean? All right, like especially when it just like shits out information to you, and you're like, like part of it's true, part of it's not. Is that accurate? Which is a precursor to validity.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's I would love to check that out. I've seen some of his work before, and like that's really interesting.
Yeah, I'll shoot it to you after this is over. Do you have another one for me though?
Oh, yeah, one more.
Well, I'll hit you with another one real quick afterwards, because I've got
Oh, okay,
something that I
I got
think
a little
you'll wanna
time.
see.
Because we're it's timely. This is going to come out a few weeks later, but the daylight savings time just like passed over us, and this is called like lost sleep and cyberloafing. We may have covered this before. It's one of my favorites, 2012 article. But we love to browse the internet at work. You know how it is.
Yeah.
That's essentially considered cyberloafing. I actually saw Blanchard at PsyOp a couple years ago. I was like, "What's up, cyberloafing?" She was on the phone. It was in Boston. It was right outside of our session room. I saw Blanchard's like, "What's up? We cyberloafing?" She's like, "Ah," like you're the only person that's read that in a while, whatever. That's the fun part of PsyOp. Anyway, like our ability to cyberloaf is based on self-regulation, and they go into this like the ego depletion model, where sleep can actually decrease your ability to control yourself. This
Yep.
sort of stuff. So they conducted two different studies. One study measured the amount of cyberloafing, or essentially accessing entertainment sites that it's like 2 million folks or something like that, using Google search data the day after daylight saving. So they checked it the Friday, and then they checked it the Monday, and there was a 3 to 6% increase in cyberloafing on the day after daylight savings. It's really phenomenal. And in the second study, they did a laboratory study where they actually put people into they got them sleep trackers and this sort of stuff, and they found that for every 1 hour of sleep lost, there was a 7% increase in cyberloafing, which sounds about right based on the estimate from the other study. So overall, I mean, I know we like to pride ourselves on, hey, I didn't sleep last night. I'm working, so hard, this sort of shit. Like, it has a bite in your butt sort of phenomenon attached to it as well. Like, you really need sleep.
Totally agree. And I mean, even if I get like 30 minutes less sleep than normal,
Oh yeah.
I can feel it. So I know this wasn't a direction you were going, but I'm fully in favor of them getting rid of daylight savings time and just leave
Totally.
it the same all year round. I think Arizona has that. I think Arizona has it right. I think everybody else needs to get on board.
You want to hear my major miscalculation this year? Like, I'm running this sort of thing, and I'm dealing with people all around the globe, and these folks in London need my input on things. And like from Seattle, that's a pretty dramatic time change. I think it's like 8 hours or something like that. So without knowing the daylight savings was, like, yeah, sure, I'll have that 7 a.m. meeting on Monday, this past Monday, the day after daylight savings. So it's like an extra probably hour or so before I would normally operate.
That's
Uh,
brutal.
actually, I adjusted quite well for whatever reason. It did not impact me
I
that I
actually had the
saw.
same thing happen this week.
Really?
Yeah, with some of my colleagues overseas, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so much worse when it's one more hour difference." But let me hit you with something real quick, and we can wrap up.
Let's do
Um,
it.
Friend of the podcast, previous guest, Philip Arkle posted this, and I just wanted to show it to you because I thought you'd find it really interesting.
Phil
Is
Dog.
he posted the AI usage of what models are getting used over time, and so it starts in January of 2025 and goes through January 2024 through February 2025, and the usage of different AI tools. And so it starts out, probably 70% of people are using, the different OpenAI products, but
Yeah.
Claude makes a huge upward swing. At one point, the Gemini from Google is making an upward trend, and for whatever reason, in October of 2024, it just like gets gutted and goes way back down. You can see the entrance of DeepSeek a few months ago, and you can see when like each one of these companies puts in a new model. There's Grok down at the bottom. It's pretty consistent, but as people put in new models, like when they spike up, and so pretty interesting finding here. But I don't know if you had come across this before.
No, I have not seen it. It's wildly interesting. I would suggest that the drop in Gemini has to do with the release of ChatGPT 4.0, but it's a whole like ecosystem. Clearly, I think this resonates that OpenAI was first to market,
Yeah.
right? So they have a lot of like staying power. Claude tends I find that it's better at sort of writing tasks, this sort of thing.
Mhm.
I'm loving the notebook LLM for the podcasting. Like I'll throw in a research article and just let it create a podcast. I'll just walk around and listen to that like on my way to work. There's so many options. It is so cool. It is so
Yeah,
cool.
it is fascinating. I'll hit you with this to leave the podcast because it was kind of related to that. Is our buddy Ethan Mullick. We've talked a lot about, and even today about, like innovation and creating good ideas. And there's this research article that he highlights that LLMs are only capable of one kind of innovation. It's called recombinatory, which means finding novel connections among existing knowledge.
Yeah,
So that's
exactly.
that's where what LLMs can help with, but all other innovation, at least for the moment, is left to human beings. And so, to kind of go full circle on what we were talking about, critical thinking earlier, intelligence, it's really important that if we want to keep innovating and inventing things, frankly, that we don't neuter ourselves with AI, and that we because it's going to help us recombinate things, but not necessarily to create the really true new ideas that are out there.
No, yeah, going back to the critical thinking aspect, the risk is turning these sort of technologies into an automation tool and not an augmentation tool. So yeah, it is great to help you in your job, but keep that noggin churning. Absolutely.
Do the Sudoku. That's the take home message from this. Got to keep that Sudoku going.
I just stick it in my LLM. It shows me it's great.
Yeah,
It shows me the right answer.
that's actually a really good metaphor. It's like, imagine if people just started putting their Sudokus into
Yeah.
LLMs. Like, what's the point of doing a Sudoku? Is for
Look, I
enjoyment.
did it. I got it
Yeah.
right.
It's like, okay, and now what? Because
It's kind of like cheating on a crossword puzzle. Like
yeah,
it,
exactly,
it doesn't feel good. Like yeah, I got the answer. It doesn't feel good.
exactly.
No, that's a boy. I got a broader point there about like just the meaning in life and like the meaning in work and all this sort of stuff. And that's a really good example.
Well, I think what we're getting to, I think we've covered it before, is like there is an intrinsic value in doing something.
Hmm.
Right? Whether it's work or thinking or creating art or what have you, there is an intrinsic value to yourself. And I think your point is this is like you're negating your ability to express that intrinsic value if you just turn everything over to AI.
You negate it and you derive nothing from it.
Yeah. You're creating nothingness, which is no fun.
Well, you want to fade into nothingness now?
Let's fade into some nothingness. So, you've been listening to Directionally Correct, a People X podcast with Cole and Scott, and today's guest, Nobody.